Hi everyone, this is Kemi. So I am working on making some changes to our next 3 sessions, strategic planning sessions. And as your facilitator, I find that at times a facilitator must pivot and refine their steps in response to the people they are working with. So based on some of your great feedback I received from some of you, I decided to shift gears just a bit on the strategic planning process. This video will explain the purpose of our strategic planning sessions and provide context for what it all means and how it directly relates to the work you are doing right now. Additionally, I will provide an overview for what will be covered in the remaining sessions. So are you ready? Okay, let's get started. The big question is why. I know. Why are you all here? Why are you all doing these sessions with me in particular? And what you are getting out of it? Here's the answer. With the transitions that are happening at the library, it is time to change and evolve, to review what we have been doing and to make it better, from how your services are being delivered and what services you offer with the support of Julia and the guidance of Julia, and to your marketing and how you're marketing your services with my support and guidance. And so I was asked to facilitate these sessions because I have experience with strategic planning and design thinking and all of that. And a lot of my experience has been working with other design thinking practitioners to help serve the customer. However, you are the customer, quote unquote, and we are actually working together and collaborating on a much more higher level. So it's a little bit of a different process. So through our first 2 sessions, I've learned that this process is a little different, and so I have to make the changes in order to make this the most effective and efficient as possible. So these sessions will be held to walk you through the process of creating a strategic plan that we can all build together. And part of this is to align the group with the library's mission, vision, and values in a very concrete way. So by the end of this process, we should have a strategic plan as a document that we all can get behind and that will guide us in the year or 2 years to come. So now, in order for this process to work, we need all of you to be open to change and be willing to use the strategic plan as a guide towards progressive change for your group, since change will be inevitable at the library, particularly with the new UL on the horizon. Also, this process will help us see our workflow and decide what we should be doing and what will have to be edited. And let me rephrase what a strategic plan is. It's like a roadmap that takes you from point A to point B. And it includes all of the steps and detours in between those points. And I have found that a strategic planning process is often arduous in the beginning. And that's because workflows are overcomplicated and just not as efficient as they can be. And so the other day we did an information dump. And yes, it was tedious. The part of the session that involved mapping out the workflow was really a reflection of what you might be experiencing on a day-to-day basis with your workload. So it was interesting because what we saw on the board was probably a representation of how you're feeling with the work that you're doing. Although you all are doing good work, you're probably feeling pretty frustrated and overworked and overloaded. But my friends, this is an important step because we have to know what we do in order to decide what can be done better. And we definitely have to do this before any new ideas are introduced. We initially thought everything could be packed in one 5-hour session or 2 5-hour sessions, but I quickly realized that the initial plan was unrealistic for your group. And honestly, many strategic planning processes take weeks and weeks and weeks to complete, which is also unrealistic for your group. So I think these weekly sessions over 5 weeks is the best approach to get the most impact for now. As you probably know, thoughtful and meaningful change takes time, and when done right can actually be much more efficient and effective and time-saving. Okay, I'm done with my babble about my case for why. Let's just start where we left off, which was the last session, and exploring who our audience is and what their workflow is like. And in that process, we kind of came up with a rough draft of what your workflow is like. We did not complete all of the audience segments, but we more or less mapped out their journey. The journey of the grad students, faculty, and professional students. And we also came up with some insights about the professional students and what that looks like, and maybe segmenting them even more. So I will save you the tedious task of continuing this activity. I would check in with each of you before the next session to gather the information with for the remaining audience segments. So in the next session, we will get started on creating the actual strategic plan. And here is what you need to know. Excuse me. So I will start with a graphic representation of your current workflow based on what we came up with in our last session to provide some perspective. The graphic will also have a purpose later on in the process. Then I will provide a brief run through of the data for your group, from classes to pop-ups. Pop-ups, by the way, are now known as office hours, to LibGuides, etc. Essentially, I will provide you with the numbers. Next, we will look at the organizational mission, vision, and values, which should set the tone for the strategic plan. So the library's mission, vision, and values. And a summarized version of the individual goals you came up with during our very first session, which should serve as the framework with which the plan is built. We will also look at our summarized list of strengths and weaknesses. I will collect this information from you individually, again, before our next meeting. All of this will inform the body of the strategic plan, which will include a list of 6 to 8 goals that we want to achieve as a group, a set of strategies to achieve our goals, and a list of tactical steps that we can take for each strategy. Now, let's break this down a bit further. So think of goals as qualitative, the big picture aspiration. And think of strategies to achieve the goals as quantitative, the big picture actions. This is where we look at the opportunities. Then think of tactics as incremental steps that we complete to achieve the strategies. We will be creating new tactics, such as offering workshops or developing a research boot camp or regular departmental office visits, et cetera, et cetera. That's something that we'll ideate and create as a group together. And we will also revise some of our current tactics, which are, the classes, pop-ups, and consultations. We may decide to keep some and just change them, or just get rid of some of the things that we're doing because they may not be as efficient. So this is where we will revisit the current workflow and the 2 rapid brainstorming activities that we did in the very first session, where we each had 2 minutes to build on each person's idea on the stickies on the wall in our very, very first meeting. So to summarize, first we will create goals, which are big picture aspirations. Then second, we will develop long-range strategies to meet those goals, which are big picture actions. And third, we will decide what tactics we can do that support the strategy. So the small steps, the day-to-day or monthly or quarterly actions we will take in order to support the strategy. So here are a couple of examples of goals, strategies, and tactics that I found. So we're going to start with UCSF. So they, I think I shared this with you at some point, maybe before our very first session, but they have on their website listed their 2012 to 2015 strategic plan. They're probably working on the next one, but this is what we have so far. So they have a whole list of goals, and then with that, they have a list or a group of strategies and a list of tactics to support the strategies. So I just picked one goal for this example. So one of their goals is to attract and support the most talented and diverse trainees in health sciences. So the strategy attached to that will help them achieve that goal is to develop infrastructure to support new experiential, team-based, interdisciplinary learning. And so with that strategy that I just mentioned, they have 3 tactics. So one of the tactics, the day-to-day or small step, is to establish an interprofessional health education center infrastructure, whatever that means, by December 31st, 2012. Excuse me. And what they did was next to each tactic, they put a status so you know like where they are in the process. So on this tactic, the status was completed and work continues to optimize, which probably means that it's ongoing. And then tactic 2 for that strategy is to develop a business plan for Parnassus and Mission Bay Learning Commons by May 29th, 2012. So they developed the plan. The status is that they developed the plan and efforts are ongoing to establish a viable business plan. And the final tactic for that strategy is to develop a business plan to integrate and maintain a robust campus-wide digital learning environment by March 31st, 2012. And so the status of that is the plan is drafted with ongoing efforts to fund the initiative. So the other example is the Seattle Public Library. And they had a strategic plan that I found on their website. I believe it's from 2015 to 2017. So they're probably, I think, halfway through. So one of the goals that I picked out was expand Seattle's access to information, ideas, and stories. A strategy, an action that they can take to reach that aspiration is to develop relevant and inspiring collections that meet Seattle's evolving needs and expectations. So that's very big picture and very vague. So you have to get to the details of it, which are the small steps you do to reach this strategy. And that's where the tactics come in. So the first tactic is to find new and better ways to hear what the public wants in the collection. That's still a little vague, but that's what they have there. And the second tactic is to create and collect original, non-published local interest materials, such as podcasts of community events and oral histories. So those, that's the goal, which is big picture, aspirational, and qualitative. The strategy, which is a big picture action and quantitative. And then you have the tactics, which are small step actions that help you reach the strategy. Okay, so in the next session that we're having next week, Wednesday, April 20th, we will have an hour and a half. So the schedule will be tight. We will start promptly at 1:30 on Wednesday. So if you're there on time, if you're not, we're starting 1:30 promptly. And here's an overview of the agenda. So we're going to start with an overview, which will be 15 minutes, which is the numbers, the data snapshot, reviewing current workflow, reviewing the mission, vision, and values, and also the goals, and then reviewing the strengths and weaknesses. And then with that, that's going to help us inform the goal development, which is going to be 30 minutes. And then we're going to spend 45 minutes on strategy development. And so all of these will have activities involved with them that we will do to help us get to a rough draft for this. And for the following sessions, they will involve developing tactics. So the small steps, which include, how we transition. So you all have a workload that you're doing right now. We definitely can't just drop it in 1 second and then the next day move to, a whole new other strategy and way of doing things. So there has to be a transition. We're going to work on that and what that looks like. But first, we're going to develop some tactics, some things, actionable steps that we can do in order to reach our strategies and to achieve our goals. And then we're going to work on prioritization. So prioritizing the list And then in the last session, we talked about diversifying your bets. So whatever strategies and tactics we do, we have to diversify. We have to talk about different timelines for each thing. Not everything has to begin and end at the same time, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to be covering resources, assigning resources. So assigning tactics and strategies to people, talking about money, funding, what needs to be done in order to accomplish these things. And then we're going to be working on evaluation and assessment. So how do we measure success for all of these things? What will we be doing to evaluate all of the new tactics that we put in place, the strategies? How do we evaluate? How do we measure success? How do we continue to refine? Those are things we're going to be covering in the following sessions. And all of these are activity-based. So again, moving forward, we have to all cooperate in order for this to bring real change and to support your work at the library. I will probably be working with Julia as well to talk about what that looks like. How do you set it in place and actually have it happen? I want you all to be able to do this work and have it actually happen and, reap the benefits of that. So thanks everyone. And I hope this explanation was helpful. Whether it was or not, if you have any questions, please email me, give me a call, or stop by my office. I will be checking in with each of you in the next few days. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we will talk soon.